Tonight, the province loosens requirements for oil rig drivers, raising concerns about road safety. Regina fraudster Alena Pastuch will serve jail time. And why condo construction in Saskatoon is slowing while apartments are taking off.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Tuesday, January 20th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. I'm Ethan Williams. Thank you for joining us. The provincial government is scaling back some licensing requirements for drivers in the energy sector, but not everyone is happy about the changes. Alena Pastuch has our top story.
Here in oil country, companies are in the business of getting oil out of the ground and on the move as quickly and as efficiently as possible. The government says it's easing some trucking regulations to help with that, but the move isn't being celebrated by everyone. Previously, drivers were required to have a G endorsement on their license. That comes with additional requirements from SGI, such as a written heavy trailer test and completing a road test while towing a trailer. The province is also doing away with drivers submitting periodic medical reports to SGI. SGI says service rigs spend very little time on major roads and travel in convoys at slower speeds. Most of that travel happens on rural roads or secondary highways.
Now we are going to have a situation where service rigs can operate under the same rules between Alberta and Saskatchewan. We're working with Manitoba to get there as well, but that is really going to increase efficiency, increase the opportunity for these service rig operators to do what they do best.
Industry leaders say the changes will allow for smoother cross-border operations, especially with Alberta. They say it will reduce interprovincial trade barriers and encourage crews and equipment to uphold a strong safety record.
Ultimately, the outcome is road safety, safety on the highways, safety in the field. Those objectives don't change. It's making things less administratively onerous in order to achieve essentially the same outcome.
But not everyone is convinced. The province has worked hard to tighten its rules around regulations in the trucking industry following the Humboldt Broncos bus crash. The 2018 crash, which killed 16 people, involved a semi. A woman who lost her daughter in the crash says scaling back licensing and medical requirements, even for a limited group of drivers, raises concerns around whether safety is being compromised.
Of course, you never want to see an industry being penalized, but yet I feel that holding everybody to a higher standard as opposed to a lower standard would be better for a benefit for everybody.
But the province insists safety is and will remain top of mind. Alena Pastuch, CBC News, Weyburn.
Premier Scott Moe has arrived back in Saskatchewan after his visit to China with Prime Minister Mark Carney, and he says he's optimistic about the agreement Canada and China reached over tariffs on canola, peas, and electric vehicles. Moe was part of the Canadian delegation that came to the agreement with Chinese President Xi Jinping last week. It saw China remove its 100% tariff on Canadian canola oil, canola meal, and peas. In addition, tariffs on canola seed are expected to be reduced to 15%. Agriculture stakeholders in this province say farmers were hit hard by the tariffs.
The tariffs imposed by China effectively shut Canadian canola out of this important market. The closure of the Chinese market caused real uncertainty at the farm gate. Volatile prices, reduced marketing options, coupled with high input prices, resulted in negative pressure on farm profitability.
This is a positive agreement for not only the Saskatchewan agriculture industry, it's really positive for the Saskatchewan agriculture industry, as we produce about 55% of the canola production in this nation. But it's also important to the Canadian agriculture industry, and I would say equally important to the Canadian economy.
The changes to the tariffs resulting from the preliminary agreement between Canada and China are expected to take effect by March 1st. Now, despite that deal, new research says Canadian canola remains vulnerable to outside forces. The research says nearly 90% of Canadian canola exports go to China and the U.S., and options beyond that are limited. The lead researcher says Canada should upgrade its export facilities to handle more oil, and that it should build more canola crushing plants to tap into the growing biofuels market. A crushing plant operated by Cargill is expected to open near Regina this spring. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister is making international headlines for what he said Tuesday in Switzerland. It was a hard-hitting address to the World Economic Forum and a thinly veiled broadside against the U.S. Ashley Burke reports.
The Prime Minister delivering a provocative speech, declaring that the rules that have governed global affairs for decades are effectively dead.
The old order is not coming back. We shouldn't mourn it. Nostalgia is not a strategy. But we believe that from the fracture, we can build something bigger, better, stronger, more just.
Mark Carney telling business and political leaders in Davos that Canada has to accept a world where big powers are using economic might to coerce.
The middle powers must act together because if we're not at the table, we're on the menu.
Carney not naming the U.S., but sending a clear message, saying it's time to criticize economic intimidation no matter what.
It means acting consistently, applying the same standards to allies and rivals.
The Prime Minister aligning himself with European allies during Donald Trump's latest economic threat against those resisting his bid to take over Greenland.
Canada strongly opposes tariffs over Greenland.
How are you? I'm fine.
While in Davos, Carney spoke with two key allies, Britain and France, countries on the front lines of Trump's latest tariff threat, after sending small contingents of troops to Greenland, viewed as a show of support.
We prefer respect to bullies. We do prefer science to plotism. And we do prefer rule of law to brutality.
The Foreign Affairs Minister asked if Canada will do the same to support sovereignty exercises the Danes are planning.
Regarding future deployments and future exercises, those are decisions that the Minister of National Defence makes together with the Chief of Defence Staff.
For all of his bluntness, Carney seemed to do everything to ensure that he didn't directly name Donald Trump in his speech. The U.S. president is expected to deliver his own address here on Wednesday, just as Carney is expected to leave. The Prime Minister's office says that so far there is no meeting scheduled between the two leaders. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Davos, Switzerland.
A decade-long fraud case will soon come to an end. Alena Pastuch was sentenced in Regina Tuesday for defrauding her clients of millions of dollars. Alexander Kwan has that story.
Alena Pastuch will soon be heading to prison, bringing an end to a legal saga that has spanned more than a decade. Pastouch heard her fate at Regina's Court of King's bench on Tuesday, with Justice Catherine Dawson rejecting the 60-year-old's attempt to get her guilty plea thrown out and sentencing her to 3.5 years in prison. Pastouch stole nearly $5 million in an investment scheme dating back to 2006. She defrauded 64 corporations and people, some of whom were distant relatives. She used the money to fund an extravagant lifestyle, with Pastouch buying a home, purchasing concert tickets, and purchasing collectibles. Pastouch is now a long way from that life, with the court being told she has relied on income assistance while released on bail. Pastouch had been convicted during a trial in 2019, only to have that decision overturned on appeal. A second trial was avoided in 2024 when Pastouch pled guilty to a single count of theft of money, property of corporate or other private investors of a value exceeding $5,000. Crown prosecutors say Tuesday's sentencing has been a long time coming.
Obviously, it's exceptionally rare for cases to take a decade to come to resolution. The complexity of the case was one of those factors. Obviously, the original trial having taken place over a period of time of 5 months is unusual, both the nature of the evidence and then the complexity of the fact that Ms. Pastouch went through a number of defense counsel.
Pastouch has been credited for time spent on remand and for the time she spent in prison after her first trial. As a result, her sentence will run for a total of 2 years. She's been ordered to pay restitution, even though her victims are unlikely to ever recover their money. Pastouch has been granted a few days to get her affairs in order. She'll have to turn herself into police on Friday in order to begin her sentence. But it appears Pastouch is already attempting to get this decision reviewed. She was spotted filling out a notice of appeal after Tuesday's sentencing. Alexander Kwan, CBC News, Regina.
Well, the chillier, sunnier weather making it easier to see those snowflakes falling in Regina, the city getting a light dusting of snow overnight Monday into Tuesday. For other areas of the province, though, it has not been so calm and sunny, and it's about to get more unsettled and a lot colder for many of us in the coming days. Weather specialist Mickey Wolf tells us all about it in her forecast after the break. Saskatoon seems to be seeing a shift in the type of housing being built. For years, ambitious condo projects have stalled, all while big apartment buildings are on the rise. Phil Tank has that story.
You probably see a couple of buildings on a riverfront slope thick with trees.
But it's such a beautiful area, though.
But Bob Bahari sees his future home, a spectacular 26-story condo tower like no other in Saskatchewan. The cleaning products entrepreneur bought the first of two properties 15 years ago. He saw the potential back then.
I have a very clear vision, this is not just a business for me, right? This is is a dream project for me. There are going to be
Bahari got the blessing of City Council to build in 2024. But the soaring costs that have stalled other big condo projects in Saskatoon have made Bahari cautious. He still believes in his $100 million dream and hopes to start construction next year.
It definitely has slowed down because of a lot of uncertainty in the markets and everything, and the price and whatnot. And with the tariffs and everything else, we don't know where we will end up. So those due diligence, we need to do that.
Bahari sees his prime property in the Nutana neighborhood as unique in the province. But other big riverfront condo projects announced just before or just after the pandemic hit remain in limbo. Saskatoon planning consultant Alan Wallace explains why.
We've been in a cost escalation time period, and it's still, the costs are really, really high for construction, and it's enough to give developers pause, and they have to have certainty.
And yet, big apartment towers are rising, replenishing a depleted rental market. People's priorities have also changed, and home ownership has become less attractive.
The condo market is going to be okay. It's not going to be that craze that we saw a few years ago where we were converting a lot of apartments to condos. It's not going to be like that. This is going to be new supply.
Bob Bahari intends to add to that supply and make his dream come true. Phil Tank, CBC News, Saskatoon.
Weather specialist Mickey Wolf joining us now. Seems we had a few days without some active weather, Mickey, but looks like it's coming back.
Yes, Ethan, I'm a little sad to report the days of kind of chilled out weather seem to be behind us, with things looking chillier as we get into the week. But first, let's address some of those watches and warnings we're seeing across the province tonight. We've got a wind warning active for the southwest as well as Lloydminster tonight. We're seeing those winds gusting up to 90 kilometers an hour overnight tonight. So very strong winds there. We've got a snow squall watch as well for Buffalo Narrows. There's going to be some very poor visibility overnight. And then we've got that blowing snow advisory as well across the south and reaching up into Saskatoon. That's going to be active as we get into tomorrow morning. Those were our daytime highs today. Still feeling a little bit warmer, and I hope you enjoyed it today. We'll have a colder week in our skies right now. Still seeing a few flurries scattered throughout south and central Saskatchewan, but those flurries are on the way out overnight tonight and into the morning tomorrow. We will see blowing snow tomorrow for south and central Saskatchewan. And then by Thursday, we've got a high pressure system making its way into the province. It will bring clearer skies, but it'll bring colder temperatures as well. Let's take a look at those wind gusts first, though. We're seeing that stronger gusting overnight, potentially in excess of 80 kilometers an hour in the southwest. And then by tomorrow afternoon, we'll see things start to calm down for the south. As far as snowfall accumulation, we might see up to 8 centimeters for Moose Jaw as we get into Friday, and everywhere else in south and central is looking about that 1 to 5 centimeter range, so not too much snowfall. In the north as well, we've got a little bit of snow to contend with this week, but not looking too shabby. Those wind chill temperatures, though, are quite cold, especially Saskatoon. We're seeing down to minus 28 tomorrow morning and down to minus 44 for folks in Stony Rapids. Now, here are those cold days I was mentioning earlier. We've got a cold one Thursday and Friday for Regina, wind chill values down to minus 30 for Thursday. So it's a very cold day before things start to mellow out a little bit next week. And similarly for Saskatoon, just 1 degree behind in wind chill values on Thursday, down to minus 39. So very cold days ahead of us for Thursday and Friday. I'm going to keep my eye out for cold watches. And we've got a few flurries here and there, but not too much snow to worry about. So Ethan, it's really time to prepare mentally again for those cold Saskatchewan days.
Yeah, it looks like a bit of a cold snap, but thankfully doesn't look like it'll last too long.
Fingers crossed, Ethan. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Okay, thank you, Mickey.
Thank you.
Well, earlier this month, we told you about dozens of cats rescued from a hoarding situation in a home in Wynyard. Some were in pretty rough shape, but now they're recovering and getting a second shot at life. Jeremy Warren brings us this update.
He probably didn't eat for a long time, and with his teeth so bad. So, look at you.
The small signs of recovery are everything to Veronica Hermiston. This cat is one of dozens seized from a house in Wynyard earlier this month. They came out in varying stages of health, with matted fur, open sores, even a missing leg. Hermiston says several animal rescue groups and volunteers have banded together to provide vet care and grooming and to give them safe foster homes.
They're just still not confident in everything. But yeah, it's beautiful. The transformation that we're seeing every day is just, it's so heartwarming. I can't wait to come out and see what they're going to be like today.
It began with a wellness check at this property in Wynyard. RCMP removed 2 people from the house, 1 dead, 1 alive, then called in animal rescue groups. Initially, they pulled 3 dozen cats out of the home, then returned and trapped 11 more. Hermiston says while it may seem shocking, it's more common than people think.
This isn't really like a big deal in a rescue world because probably weekly, or monthly for sure, we get calls like this. I'm currently helping several places of the similar situation.
The recent 11 rescues are staying with Hermiston at her pet sanctuary until they're cleared for new homes. 5 rescues are staying at Sherbrooke Community Center in Saskatoon. The long-term care home runs a foster pet program for residents. Allison Fox says it's therapeutic for everyone.
In long-term care, a lot of the things that cause premature illness and premature dying are not necessarily the medical. It's the loneliness, it's helplessness, it's boredom. And pets are just one of the many things that can help to alleviate those things.
Meanwhile, the province has decided to hire a new group to run animal welfare enforcement. The province says the Saskatchewan Animal Enforcement Agency starts work April 1st. Animal rescue groups like Mozart are waiting for details about the deal. But Hermiston says in the meantime, they have their hands full. Jeremy Warren, CBC News, Wynyard.
Well, they are going for gold. Hockey Canada has announced the 17-player roster for the Paralympic hockey team in Calgary on Tuesday.
Our main barometer of success is pretty simple, and it points at one thing, and that's a gold medal.
The team has been practicing in Calgary for the last couple of weeks. Their first game will be against Slovakia on March 7th in Italy. And around 350 new seats are being added to Cairns Field in Saskatoon. It's all to accommodate a growing Saskatoon Berries fan base. New sections will be installed right behind home plate. Construction will begin in early spring to be ready for opening day on Saturday, May 30th. Season ticket holders will have first dibs to upgrade their seats, and tickets will go on sale to the general public on February 3rd. The Berries are also hosting the league's first ever All-Star Weekend in July. We're back after the break. Welcome back. It's the time of year where CFL teams are finding out who's staying and who's going. And the Saskatchewan Roughriders now know they'll have another solid player sticking around. They have signed Cian Schaefer-Baker to a contract extension. The Canadian wide receiver is returning to the green and white on a 2-year contract. The former fourth-round draft pick has spent his entire career with the Riders, and after helping lead the team to its first Grey Cup win in 12 years, Schaefer-Baker says he's excited for the chance to do it all over again.
The biggest thing in this locker room is the continuity and how we mesh together, and what we had last year was so special, but that's in the past. We can't ever go back and live that moment. We can watch all the videos we want, but it's about what we do today. And I mean, you already know that we got a lot of the guys coming back. We're still working on some. I know they're working hard upstairs to get all the guys back. But, you know, there's no limit to what we can do. And I think last year was just the first start for us.
Schaefer-Baker joins a long list of riders who have already re-signed with the team this offseason. Free agency begins February 10th. And we know Mickey Wolf isn't going anywhere, but she may be hiding a little bit these days because of how cold our weather's going to get.
Ethan, I like to embrace the cold. I bundle up and I get out there and I do my best to not be afraid in the face of cold temperatures. But tonight, I may want to hide inside. Let's take a look at some of these colder temps we're going to be seeing tonight. Just a little bit of a preview for the week. Now, we're seeing those temperatures near -15 in the south and central regions, but I'm anticipating those are going to get colder as we saw in our earlier forecast. And in the north, we're seeing very chilly temperatures for Stony Rapids tonight with those lows near -30. And things are going to continue to cool down for the far north tomorrow with those daytime highs near -32. And tomorrow we are looking at blowing snow across south and central Saskatchewan, but luckily those temperatures aren't going to be too cold just yet, but we are seeing those daytime temperatures moving towards -20. So Ethan, maybe I will take a page out of the cozy book and hide inside for a little while this week.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will be choosing to do that. Thank you, Mickey.
Thank you.
And that is our news for this Tuesday. For more news anytime, you can always head to cbc.ca/sask or subscribe to the CBC Saskatchewan YouTube channel or download the CBC News app on your smartphone or tablet. Thanks so much for watching.